Lecture number 12. The theme, New English. The plan of the lecture: development of the syntactic system in Middle English and early New English. Two external factors which favored the rise of the national language and the literary standards are the unification of the country, the progress of culture. The invention of printing had the most immediate effect on the development of the language, its written form. The first printer of the English books was William Caxton. By the end of the 17th century, one of the forms of the national literary language, its written standard, had been established. The development of the spoken standard began at the end of the 18th century. In the 19th and 20th centuries, the national English language comprised a great number of varieties. Scottish and Anglo-Irish claimed to be literary tongues. There appeared a lot of dialects in English. The colonial expansion of England to the New World began in the late 16th. The colonists spoke different dialects of English. In North America, these dialects gradually blended into a new type of language, American English. It was first proclaimed to be an independent language by Noah Webster, a schoolmaster from Connecticut. The linguistic situation in modern English was most favorable for strong foreign influence. Scandinavian borrowings presented words denoting military and legal matters, lawyer, flat, husband, and French words related to the government and the administration, country, nation, and the military terms, that is, army, battle, and law, accuse, case, religion, that is, lesson, pray, rule, and the main contributors to the vocabulary in the 18th century were Italian, Dutch, Spanish, German, Portuguese, and Russian. For example, Italian, million, piano, violin; Spanish, banana, negro, tomato; Dutch, dog, cruise; German, zinc, kindergarten, za; Russian, ruble, beluga, samovar; and the loanwords at the end of the 20th century indicated the achievements in different branches of science: Sputnik, cosmonaut, perestroika. The sound changes in the following survey are grouped into two main stages, that is, early Middle English changes and the early New English changes. The sound system of the English language has undergone profound changes since the Old English. The changes affected the pronunciation, word accentuation, system of vowels and the consonants. The written form of the words in Middle English texts resembled their modern forms, though the pronunciation of words was different. In Middle English, the runic letters passed out of use. Many innovations in Middle English spelling reveal an influence of the French scribal tradition. For example, the digraphs OU, IE, CH of French origin were used in Anglo-Norman texts as sound U, E, ts, and the double out, ut, chief, chef, chamber, zaumbre. Other alterations are wide use of digraphs. For example, there appeared sh, ship, dg, j, edge. Long sounds were shown by double letters: book, sonne, sunne, and a New English book, sun. Letter O was pronounced as O and the short U. Open syllables contained long vowels, while closed syllables contained both short and long vowels. In Old English, stress usually fell on the first syllable of the word, rarely on the second. Word stress in Old English was fixed. In late Middle English poetry, we find a variety of differently stressed words. In dissyllabic words, the accent moved to the first syllable. For example, Middle English, virtue became vice in New English. That is virtue. In words of 3 or more syllables, the stress was either preserved as a secondary stress or became the only, that is, principal stress of the word. For example, Middle English, comfortable, and the New English, comfortable. Middle English, recommended, and the New English, recommend. By the end of the Middle English period, the position of word stress has become free. Extensive changes of vowels are one of the most remarkable features of English linguistic history. A variety of changes affected vowels in stressed syllables. They changed both in quality and quantity under the influence of the surrounding sounds. Long vowels were the most changeable and unstable. Profound and independent changes affected the system of diphthongs. Old English diphthongs were monophthongized and lost. New type of diphthongs developed from vowels and consonants. Independent qualitative changes of all long vowels were known as the Great Vowel Shift. It lasted from the 14th till the 17th century. Short vowels in early New English were more stable than the long ones. Only 2 short vowels out of 5 underwent certain alterations, R and U. Old English possessed a well-developed system of diphthongs. The newly formed Middle English diphthongs differed from Old English in structure. They were not contrasted through quantity as long and short. By the end of Old English period, some of the diphthongs merged in with the monophthongs. For example, E in Old English and in Middle English, E. New English, east, eastest. So, and in Old English, O, and in Middle English, deep, deep in New English, and there are some new diphthongs, EJ, Old English, A, and in Middle English, also A, and in New English, way. And look at the other examples. So English consonants were far more stable than vowels. The most important developments in the history of English consonants were the growth of new sets of sounds, affricates and sibilants. In Old English there were no affricates or sibilants except s and z. Affricates ch, j entered the English language in loan words from French. For example, Middle English, charm, gentle. A new decisive alteration took place in the 16th century. The fricatives f, v, th, z, s, z were subjected to voicing under certain phonetic conditions. For example, possess, voiceless, stands between an unstressed and a stressed vowel and has become voiced. In Old English there were long and short consonants, but in Middle English long consonants were shortened and later disappeared. Now be ready to answer to the following questions. What factors favored the rise of the national language and literary standards? What event is regarded a turning point in English linguistic history? Why was the 18th century called the Age of Normalization in the history of English?